Okay. So, in question number 5, it says in 2008-2009 academic year, 55% of students at KCC attended college full-time. There were approximately 16,000 students enrolled at KCC that year. About how many part-time students were enrolled at Kingsborough in 2008-2009? Okay, so we need to find 55%. So let's use the benchmark method again. Okay, so we have this benchmark method. We're gonna make a table. Okay, so the starting amount was 16,000. Okay, and we need to find 55%. How do we think of 55%? Well, we could think of, we know how to find 50%. So we could think of 55% as 50% plus 5%. So if we could find each of these, then we'll know our 55%. Well, to find 50, so let's write that down. We're going to find 50% first, and then we need to find 5%. But to find 5%, we think of 5% as half of 10%, because 10% is our benchmark for 5%. So that means to find this 5%, we got to find 10%. So I'm going to write 10% here, since I got to find that to find 5%. And once I find 10%, I could take half of that to get 5%. Hopefully you can see that. Try to make it, write it a little bit clearer. Okay, so let's do that. So how do we think of 50% again? We thought of 50% as half of the starting amount. So what is half of 16,000? Okay, so half of 16,000 is 8,000. Why? Because 8,000 plus 8,000, or 8,000 plus itself, will give me 16,000. Okay, and then to find 10%, remember, to find 10%, what we do? We remove the last zero from the starting amount, not from this. This is 50% of that. To find 10%, we remove the last zero from the starting amount. Okay, that's how we always found 10%, always from the starting amount. Okay, so if we remove the last zero from the starting amount, that will be 1,600. And that's 10%. And to find 5%, 5% is half of 10%. So how do I find half of 1,600? That would be 800. Okay, so now we have all the numbers that we needed to find. Which ones of these percents should we use to find 55%? Well, according to what we wrote here, we need the 50%, which is this one, and we need the 5%, which is this one. So why is this here? Remember, we just was using this to help us find that. So this is not a part of the question. So that's not really a part of the question. That was just our benchmark, or our help. Okay, so to find 50%, we have to add this. So this would be 8,000, because that's 50%, plus 800, which is the 5%. And together that gives me 8,800. Okay, so this is our 55%. So according to the question, what did they say about the 55%? It said 55% of the students at KCC attended full time. So this number represents the full time students at KCC. How much? 55% was full-time. But the question asks about how many part-time students were enrolled. They tell us 55% was full-time. So how do we find how many students is part-time? Well, there are a number of ways to find that out, right? If 55% was full-time, then that means that out of all of the students, which is this amount, which is 100%, 55 of them was full-time. So this percent would be all of the students involved, right? So if 55% was full-time, then that means the rest, whatever this amount, must be part-time students, because the total amount of students together must be full-time or either part-time. Either you full-time or you part-time if you're enrolled at the college. Okay, so if you're not full-time, then you're part-time. So together, full-time plus part-time together will give me the 100%. So what must this have to be? Well, 55% plus what amount will give me 100? This must be 45%, because 45 plus 55 is 100. So we could find that percent, or we could find that percent and do the benchmark again with this new percent, or we could say, well, 100% was 16,000. The 55%, which we just found, was 8,800. So the part-time must be whatever is left. So we could ask ourselves, 8,800 plus what amount would give us 16,000? Okay, and whatever that amount is would be the amount of part-time students at KCC. Okay, and I'll leave that part to you to find out. And if you really want to know if you're right, what you could do is find 45% of this amount and see if they match that amount. That's how you can check your work. Okay, and they should come to the same answer. Okay, and then when you come to our next video call, tell me what your result was. Okay, I'll come back with question 8.